Hello, I welcome you all, my dear life accountants. So in today's video we are going to look at another life liability. This is called bad habits. We all know that bad has to do with something that is not good, that is unpleasant, and that is negative, whereas habits are repeated actions, a regular behavior or routine. Therefore, bad habits are those negative behaviors or routines that reduces the quality of our lives and limits our growth. I understand that as human beings, we are never perfect. But for a life accountant who is intentional, who is accountable for the life that has been given to you by God, our responsibility is to identify these bad habits in our lives and work towards eliminating it. God does not expect that we'll allow all these bad habits to limit us. He expects that we should take responsibility of our lives and fight to eliminate these bad habits. We have so many bad habits, but today I'll be taking us on the 4 major bad habits that often limits our growth and reduces the quality of our lives. One of the major bad habits that affects the quality of our lives and limits growth is called lack of discipline. I cannot overemphasize on the negative impact of an undisciplined life. We know that no great destiny emerged without being disciplined. That is why these bad habits of lack of discipline can never sustain a life accountant. A life accountant ought to be disciplined. A life accountant ought to follow through with his plans and goals. God expects that we live a disciplined life. When one lacks discipline, they automatically lack self-control, they lack structure and organization. Discipline, I believe, is one of the most dangerous bad habits that limits the growth of an individual and affects negatively the quality of your life. Another bad habit is called procrastination. We understand that procrastination means delaying important tasks. This has to do with not managing your time effectively. And this is a very serious bad habit. For a life accountant ought to be a good time manager. A life accountant ought to be up and doing and proactive. Therefore, procrastination is one bad habit a life accountant needs to eliminate entirely from his or her life. When you procrastinate, you're delaying destiny. And when you procrastinate, you're wasting time, precious time that God has given you to account for at every point in time in your life. That is why a good life accountant ought to be proactive and not procrastinate. Another bad habit is called avoidance of responsibility. When one begins to avoid taking responsibility of his or her action, this is a very bad habit that can limit your growth and affect your life negatively. As a life accountant, God has given you that power to take responsibility of your life. So when you avoid taking responsibility of your action, of your life, you're already setting yourself up to have a wasted life. Another bad habit is called inconsistency. I understand that sometimes it can be very difficult to remain consistent. But one thing a life accountant needs to understand is that the more you try to remain consistent, the more that thing becomes a part of you, and the more you perfect in whatsoever you do. When you lack consistency, you already make people lose trust in you. They won't see you as a person of integrity, and responsibilities cannot be handed to you. That is why, as a life accountant, you need to work towards being consistent and avoid inconsistency with all your heart in your life pursuit. So, as always, I will be leaving us with a reflective question. So, I ask, are there any bad habits that you have identified in your life that is affecting the quality of your life negatively and limiting your growth? And what step will you take to start eliminating it from your life? Remember, it must not be a huge or big step. A tiny intentional act really matters. So, my dear life accountants, remember to always be the accountant of your life. Peace out.